Today's video is all about the Magene T100 budget level direct drive non-smart trainer. Now, budget level direct drive trainers don't have a lot of company at the lower end of the market. Elite has the Turno, but that's in a completely different price bracket to what we're looking at today. Now, non-smart trainers means there's no digital control of the resistance unit. So there's no sim mode to simulate up and down gradients. There's no erg mode to hold you at the set point wattage. It's a basic level mode where, like older fluid trainers, you would change down through your gears to increase the resistance and increase the flywheel speed, and in the inverse of that, you would change up your gears to lessen the resistance. Jumping into the tech specs of this unit, and as mentioned, it is a direct drive non-smart trainer, so no sim mode, no erg mode, it has one level mode. Now, level mode is where speed equals resistance. The higher the speed, the more resistance. Here's a speed and power curve. Pick one of those, and that's pretty much what this unit does. That's from a kicker that has multiple level modes because it is digitally controlled. Bike compatibility, it comes with quick release only support out of the box, so 130, 135 axle widths. If you have a through axle bike, you need to purchase the additional adapters for that. Freehub, it's a Shimano SRAM compatible Freehub with no cassette included. The supported connections, ANT+, ANT+ FEC, which is interesting because there's no control of this unit, and Bluetooth. Power is the only data that's transmitted from this unit, so there's no cadence and no speed, which is kind of interesting given that the unit does calculate the power based on the speed, but there's no speed in the data channels over ANT or Bluetooth. Power accuracy, plus or minus 3% claimed. Calibration is done via a Spindown. Max grade simulation does not apply here. Max wattage of 700 watts, so it is light on, but again, this is a budget level unit. Flywheel weight not listed. I'd go with a few kilograms, and it is quite a large flywheel, so the weight is on the outside. It does have a good ride feel. I'll talk more about that in a moment. The noise level, virtually silent. It has a drive belt, which is a V-belt, which you can see here. The same kind of belt you see in most direct drive trainers these days. The power source, 2 AAA batteries, so no mains power required. Firmware upgradable via their app, and the price point weighing in at $399 US. Magene have already covered the unboxing and the assembly of this unit, so you can see the video here. I'll put links below if you're interested in that. But building this was pretty much identical to a kicker core because it has a very similar construction. It was well packaged, and the assembly for me, including the cassette, was well under 10 minutes. Before the T100 will transmit power, it does require activation, so that's done with the Magene utility app, and after a few seconds, it's good to go. The unit that I had in the Llama Lab also required a firmware upgrade, so that just took an extra minute or two to get that done. With the T100 assembled and the bike installed, it was on to the Llama Lab Test. Now, the Llama Lab Test typically tests erg mode, but this, there's no erg mode, so it was just workout mode, I guess you would call it. And I tell you what, it was pretty smooth on the pedals, ticking over at that 200 into the 250. The sprints, on the other hand, we'll talk about those in a moment. So with the workout mode, I will call it, there was no seeking where it needed to hold the wattage at. I had to hold that, and it was buttery smooth. So you can see here, I was holding almost to the watt, as reported by the trainer, 200, and then into the 250 zones. It was all very, very smooth. So there was a good ride feel to the unit. Now, the sprints, on the other hand, well, they turned out as expected. With a unit that has a maximum wattage of 700 watts for sustained applied resistance, I was able to outride the unit pretty quickly and get that thing really ticking along. So if you're sprinting above 800 watts for any longer than 5 to 10 seconds, so if you're an advanced level cyclist, this trainer definitely isn't for you. The unit also isn't all that stable either. Coming off the Stages bike for the past few weeks where the thing was almost bolted to the ground, this thing just did a bit of a dance during the sprints. Another section of the Llama Lab Test that stresses a lot of trainers is the over and under short 20-second intervals. And this unit really fell apart. I had to choose the wattage. So it wasn't the resistance unit clamping the watts as you get in a digitally controlled smart trainer. I had to choose the correct gearing and get that flywheel up to speed for it to report the power target that I needed. Almost impossible to do for 20-second intervals that jumped around a little bit. So it kind of fell apart there. But if you're chasing stars on Zwift in your workouts, you're going to struggle with this. Then just into the riding along mode, in what's typically sim mode, it was fine. There's obviously no hill gradient feel, but that ride feel of ticking over the flywheel, it was actually pretty good. Now diving into the data recorded from today's Llama Lab session, and here we are on my favorite website on the internet, the DCR analysis tool, where we can compare multiple power meters as an overlay and see how they stack up. And stack up, well, they stacked up. Using the PowerMax NGco, the Asioma Duo, and the Magene T100. So 10-minute warm-up, and a spin down performed within the app there, and into my 200 watt steady state, 250 watt steady state, into a sprint. There's some overs and unders. Let's have a look at how things ticked along. So first up here, you can see the Power Max and the Aciomas are quite happy. The blue line under there is the T100, so reporting a little lower. All in all, the 200 watt section was about 22 watts off, lower, and the 250 watts was around 27 to 28 watts off. However, the ride feel, you can see there, is quite smooth. There was no oscillations or large oscillations over and under. On the pedals, it was good. Power numbers were just a little bit off and very, very smooth. Jumping into the sprint here, and you can see it misses the sprint, and the 2 power meters almost missed the sprint because it was just so quick. There's probably 1, 2, 3 seconds, and I had the thing spun out way too much. So not for sprinting in that the gear that I was in there. I tried another sprint, and again, it spun out a little bit too quickly. The 2 power meters on the bike were a little happier this time. The Magene unit wasn't able to hold, so maxed out. Even though this thing does have a maximum wattage of 700 watts, that's maximum sustained wattage. It will still peak over that. So it bumped over 1,000, but you can see the other meters were pushing a lot higher than that. But again, still spun up way too fast. Definitely not for sprinting. On to the overs and unders. Now, if you've seen a Llama Lab Test before, you know they look pretty square. That doesn't look square, but that's the experience. As I was saying before, it really required me to be in the right gear, spin the flywheel up, and you can see those spikes at the start. That's me trying to spin the flywheel up and trying to guess where it needed to be before it stabilized. There was no stabilization happening there over 20 seconds. So that looks quite messy, but I am still proud of the Powdermax Engico 206 and the Accioma Duo 205 being spot on the money. You can also see how smooth the data is there from the blue line, which is the Magene T100. Again, gives us an indication of how the unit actually works and reports power. To give the T100 another chance, I did a spin down here at about 52 minutes into the game, and I did another short 200 watt section and 250 watt workout section. I won't call this erg. The other power meters, they're happy, 139, 139, and the Magene still a little lower at 130 average for that little section I've selected there, but you can see the numbers are off by about the same amount. The mean max power graph we have here is a good indication that there is an offset issue between the power meters that I have on the bike and the T100. You can see there it's consistent all the way through, it's just offset. And finally, the overall stats, the Engico Accioma, so 164, 165 average, 222, 225, max power, 1200, 1294, very short sprint, so they didn't really get time to line up. But the Magene T100 there, a little lower on all, so 149, 199 normalized, and 1056 for the max power. From that data set, we get a good indication of exactly how the T100 works mechanically, and it's all speed-based. The top cap is just a speed sensor with a magnet in the flywheel, passing the speed sensor, it's applying some smarts and broadcasting power. It's just that simple. So in wrap up today, the ride feel overall was really, really good. I didn't have to slog the cranks over top dead center and bottom dead center in that 200 watt zone, the 250 watt zone. The steady state efforts on this unit were great. The battery power means the thing is portable, so that's a good thing. Good for race warm-ups. I used to haul around the Le Mans Revolution, so this thing does pack up a little bit, but it has some pinch points, so watch your fingers on that one. The power numbers in my testing, well, obviously they were off. They were not within the 3% range, even after multiple spin downs. So I gave it a try again. The firmware was updated. That's just how the cookie crumbled. Training companies and power meter companies do self-certify their equipment, so maybe it's within 3% of how they certify things at the Magene factory. I just don't know. Things arrive in a box, I test, and present the data. I can also accept the trainer doesn't come with a cassette because that can add to the cost of a budget level trainer. However, the through axle adapters in late 2020 or close to 2021, we do need those through axle adapters for compatibility. I do think there is a market for these budget level direct drive non-smart trainers. We have the top of the range, we have mid-range, which is still quite expensive, but down here in this budget range, there's not a lot to choose from. $399 for this unit in particular, probably a little steep. At $249, that would be a fantastic entry-level trainer to get people hooked on training and that immersive experience of the 3D game. And of course, they will then want to go and get the other trainer later on if the indoor training scene is for them. Look, I'll keep an eye on the updates for this trainer to see if Magene can align those power numbers or if I've done anything wrong. But from here, we'll leave it at that. And thanks for watching.